workplace is way better than Cal. I've had a great, all of my jobs in Columbus, Ohio, except for my very first nursing job, were great. Ratios were 1 to 4. Management was great. Hospitalists were great. Like, California is not the only place that you can make good money. Hey guys, and welcome back. I know, long time no see. Listen, the month of March was so busy for me. I literally worked all but 4 days, I think, out of the whole month of March between my PRN job and my travel contract. But that stretch is over and I am so glad about it. So for those of you who are new here, my name is D'Amber. I am now 29 years old. I am a registered nurse and I have been nursing for 4 years now. My background is I started out in observation and then I went pediatric for 2 years. And then after that, I started traveling. So my travel contracts consisted of regular med surg, oncology, and now I'm on a hospice, or not a hospice, well, basically a hospice palliative / med surg unit. And then I also work PRN in the PACU. And I have some strike experience in there as well. So today we are pretty much just going to talk about the real about nursing. This video is really just about pay. I really just want to talk about the pay in the nursing in the hospitals because I get on social media, I get on TikTok, Facebook, really just TikTok and Facebook that talks about it a lot. And I see so many people on there just, you know, falsifying pay, falsifying work environments, talking about, oh, come to this state, come to this city because nursing here is like this. And I just want to let it all out because I've been doing this for 4 years. I've been so many different places and I kind of get irritated when I see people post stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I understand that social media is a way to help people pay their bills, but I also don't want people going into the nursing career thinking that it's all peaches and cream and that they're going to get paid all this money when there's literally, that's not the case. It's stepping stones to this. So let's go ahead and get started. So I think you guys already know where I'm going with this. The biggest thing that I see is people falsifying pay. Or I get on creators' TikTok pages, which I love watching my nurse creator TikToks because I love, you know, what they've done in their career and how they live their lavish lifestyle. I love it for them. What irritates me is just the fact that people will get under the post and be like, oh, let me go, you know, go back to school or let me go finish school. And don't get me wrong, I love that you guys are using that for motivation. Please continue to use these things for motivation. We need you guys in the career or in the field. I just don't want you guys to get in this field thinking that that's going to be your lifestyle. You have to understand that these creators are getting paid by their nursing job for sure, but they're also getting paid from social media. So yeah, their lifestyle, the luxury cars, the name brand purses, the trips, the budget shopping sprees, like, yeah. They're able to do that because they're getting paid from social media along with their job. And I'm not saying that their job isn't enough because you never know somebody's lifestyle before, or, you know, family circumstances or financial circumstances, any of that before nursing. But don't get into the nursing career thinking that that's going to be reality. I will tell you this, nurses have the ability to make really, really good money. And that comes with a lot of sacrifices. That comes with working on those holidays, working those long shifts, working more than just 3/12s a week. You pretty much have to work overtime in order to get paid a really good amount of money. My very first nursing job, I was making $32 an hour base pay. Now, I work night shift, so I also had a shift diff. So most jobs, when you work night shift, you either get like a 10 or 15% shift diff or you get a flat rate. My very first job was a flat rate of $5. So I was making $37 an hour. I did not have insurance and I did not have a 401k because I was on my parents' insurance and I just was dumb and didn't open up a 401k. So with that being said, bi-weekly, I was bringing home $2,100. I left that job, went pediatrics, and started making $40 an hour. At that point, I had to get insurance because I was old at that point, and I got a 401k because I became a little bit smarter financially. And with that, I was still bringing home around $2,100 to $2,200 every 2 weeks now. So that was kind of how that works. When you get into this career, raises, they happen, but they don't happen like, we'll talk about it. Let's get into it. So a raise at most facilities is yearly, and they're normally considered a merit-based raise. When I was working at the Children's Hospital, I kid you not, we had a checklist full of everything that we had to do to get a raise. And part of our raise depended on what our coworkers said about us. Like, excuse me? So whatever. So my raise was I had to do audits. I had to do all of my learnings. I had to have no disciplinary actions, and I couldn't have any verbal writings or anything like that. They checked your attendance, and then you had to make sure whatever your coworker said about you was really good. And to me, I didn't really like that part because I'm not the most friendly. I'm not a friendly person. I'm nice, but I'm not friendly. If you talk to me, I will talk to you. If you ask me for help, I will help you. If I see you're struggling, I will ask you, do you need help? But I'm not just I'm not going to sit at the nurse's station with you and, you know, talk all shift. Like, I'm really to myself. So I didn't really like that aspect. But either way it goes, when it comes to the raises in the nursing career, like I said, you get a merit-based raise every year, and that merit-based raise is not on the money that you make with the shift diff, it's on your base pay. So as a new grad and these newer nurses that are coming in, we're probably every year getting my very first job, it was 25 cents. My second job at the Children's Hospital, it was somewhere between 50 cents to like 60, 70 cents. You don't start seeing, you know, actual $1 or so raise until you've been a nurse in the game for a very long time at that specific hospital. So nursing raises, they're possible, but they're not the easiest thing to get. Now, I will say when it comes to getting a job in the nursing career, in my opinion, I think it's best to find a hospital or a city that has more than one hospital, because normally what happens is, let's say I work at a hospital system. We can use Ohio because I used to live there. When I worked at Ohio Health was going up on their base pay. But I quit Ohio Health and I went over to Children's. So Children's went up on their base pay about a couple months to a year after Ohio Health went on up. So working in a city that has more than one hospital system is also very beneficial, because hospital systems will become competitive to keep their employees. Another thing I want to say is a lot of people like to talk, you know, bad about travel nursing. Oh, the rates are low. This is not COVID anymore. The rates are not going to be 10, 8, 9, 7, 6, 5K, 4K a week anymore. That is not realistic. But in my opinion, it still is very much more worth it, because I get paid weekly what I was making bi-weekly at my old jobs. So yeah, I'm going to go make that travel money. And then, you know, you get your holiday pay, all that stuff, and you get to experience the world and meet new people. And it also gives you a lot of knowledge, believe it or not. Like, I've learned so much from being able to bounce from facility to facility just from travel nursing. Another thing that I see on social media a lot is that a lot of people would get on here and be like, oh, as a new grad RN, let me know how much you were offered or how much you're making. And a lot of people would be like, oh, I'm making $100 an hour, I'm making $80 an hour, I'm making $90 an hour, but they never state where they live. You really have to put into perspective where a person lives. Me making $40 an hour in Columbus was really good money in my opinion. I had no kids, I had no car note, and it was just me, myself, and I. So that's all I had to take care of. Even when I got my car, I still wasn't struggling or living from check to check, because I was able to, you know, make that amount of money that I was making. And still, I was working my overtime too. And I was able to, you know, afford the life that I was starting to build for myself. So like I said, a lot of people, they'll say they're making $80, $90 to $100, but they never say where they stay. And I'll tell you right now, if they are making that amount of money, they're normally in the Bay Area of California. I don't even know if New York nurses are making that much, because they just had that massive strike where New York City nurses were asking for say, you know, a good amount of money for increase. And I think what I was reading online was that they were only making $50 an hour in New York City, which is insane because it's so expensive to live there. I know Oregon and Washington State, they pay their nurses pretty well as well. So let's go back to the California nursing. So a lot of people love to talk about how California nursing is all this and all that. And I just want to let you guys know it truly is not. And it depends on what hospital system and what part of California that you are in. I get on social media so much and all I ever see is people talking about that. And that's fine if that's what they want, you know, to help get their page off the ground. But please be realistic, because you have people that see this thinking this is what it's going to be, and it's not. So per my experience from doing strikes out there, the Bay, like I said earlier, the Bay Area makes the really good money. When I was in Southern Cal at a hospital in the desert, when I was talking to the nurse manager, she told me she only made $50 an hour. Their CNAs down there were making $25 an hour. And I literally was like, that's insane for the amount of money that it costs to live out here. Because where I'm from, as a CNA, I was making $22 an hour. So to know that it was only $3 off, and I had an apartment that was $500 at that time. Their apartments out there are well over $1,000. So you got to take that into perspective when people talk about it. The hospital that I was working at in California, they did not have schedule breaks. Like I said, the pay wasn't good. Their nursing ratios were not capped. So you have to take that into consideration. Now, when you work at certain facilities in California that starts with a K, they do give you those hour breaks. They do cap you off with only 4 patients, but there's a lot that comes behind that clearly I'm not going to talk about. But just do your research on that facility and that company, and you will literally find out. So yeah, just make sure you do your research when it comes to that, because like I said, every state doesn't pay really good. It's not what everybody makes it seem. For example, I'll give you guys another. In Alabama, they start their nurses off at $26 an hour. And to me, that's actually insane, because their cost of living is going up as well. So to pay a nurse $26 an hour and expect for them to really live off of that in this economy, especially when they're constantly raising things, yeah. And in some cities in Alabama, all you have is one hospital system to work off of. So there is no such thing as a competition. So whatever that hospital system makes, they're not unionized and there's nothing else to work off of. So they're going to pay what they want and call it a day. I also want to talk about the benefits. Everybody thinks that because you work in healthcare that you have these great benefits. Our benefits suck. They literally suck. Every hospital I worked at sucked. Honestly, the hospital that I work at now, you literally cannot carry your spouse on health insurance if their job offered health insurance, and they have a way of finding that out. Like, our benefit packages are not the best at all. So that's another thing to take into perspective. If you have kids and all that, you know, granted, if it's your only option, you literally have no choice. But I get, that's just, you know, I just want to let you know, the hospital, us nurses, we do not have the best benefit package in the world. If anything, we're on the bottom pole of benefit packages. Something else about being a nurse is that you don't really get time. And when I say that, I mean, like, yeah, you accrue your PTO. So you do get that time off when you request it. But like, if you're sick, you got to come to work. There's no such thing as a doctor's excuse. Those things do not work. Like, yeah, I can tell you, hey, I was at the doctor. I can bring you a note saying like I was at the doctor, but you still get a point. They will still ask you if you want to use your PTO for that week. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't really get to be sick without there being a consequence for you being at work, unless it's something super serious, like where you have to be admitted into the hospital. So that's kind of rough as well, because it's like, you know, some days you just want a mental break, or some days you really can't go to work because you do have a stomach bug or whatever. Matter of fact, there was a time where I caught COVID at my very first nursing job, and I just knew something was wrong because I was very sleepy and I just was like, I couldn't taste my food. So I went to urgent care, got a COVID test completed, and I came back with COVID. I called out. The day that she gave me my 25-cent raise, she also told me that that was the last point that I could get, and if I got another point, it was going to be a written. And I was like, okay, I understand, but I literally had COVID. And she was like, the COVID excuse, it no longer works. I'm like, okay. So that actually motivated me to quit that job and go find something else. But granted, they all work like that, but I was already irritated. So I was like, okay, I'm finna just get on the job market, because that was just ridiculous to me, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, yes, there is a point system. Yes, managers should follow it, but it is up to managers' discretion if they're going to follow that point system or not. Some managers will literally let you be sick and never give you a point. So I just feel like that was a bit ridiculous in my opinion, but neither here nor there. That's another thing to think about when you do go into the nursing profession. If you have kids, some people really have a hard time like managing their schedules with their kids' schedules. The good thing about it is nurses do love to switch. I never really had a problem with finding somebody to take my shift or, you know, switching a shift with me. So that is the good thing. It can be hard. You may have to work for it. Sometimes management will work with you on getting that switch or help you find a switch or just take you off the schedule. Truly depends. But that's also another thing that you should think about prior to going into nursing as well. If you got a kid, try to have childcare set up or try to figure out how to, you know, have your kids in a good position while you're at work. And the last thing that I want to say about nursing is that we are always fighting for our life inside of the job and outside of the job. And I say that because no matter what we do, we are the ones who get blamed pretty much for everything that happens with the patient. That's why I make sure I document and I chart everything that I did and everything that I can remember that I did. That way I truly do not get in trouble. And I've also purchased, you know, insurance for my license as well, because it doesn't matter how many times you went back and forth with the doctor about why something shouldn't happen or why you truly do not feel comfortable. If the doctor orders it and you do it and something happens, you're in trouble. If the doctor orders it and you decide not to do it and nothing happens, you're still probably going to get in trouble because you did not do it. So that is the hard part about nursing, because this is your life, this is your career, this is how you feed your family, and at the end of the day you want what's best for your patients. But sometimes that's not always the case. And as we know, the CEOs of most of these nursing companies are hired, like they've never been a nurse. They're just business people. So they have no idea what it's like to get in the trenches and to be on the floor with us and to be nitty gritty with these patients, you know, taking care of 5, 6 patients at a time, dealing with family members that are rude, dealing with patients that can be rude, dealing with all of these situations that are going on with providers that could be rude. Like, it can be a lot. But honestly, it is a very, very rewarding career. Yeah, I like it. I love it. But those are just things that I kind of wish that I knew before I even stepped foot into the nursing career. But yeah, it is still very much a very good career. I just want social media to stop lying to y'all about their pay, about their nursing conditions, about California being the best state to work in for nursing. Like, I've worked places way better than I've had a great, all of my jobs in Columbus, Ohio, except for my very first nursing job, were great. Ratios were 1 to 4. Management was great. Hospitalists were great. Like, California is not the only place that you can make good money. My very second nursing job, the pediatric hospital, our overtime rate when we picked up shifts were $40 an hour on top of our base pay. So yeah, I was making really good money in Columbus. So don't make people feel like you got to go all the way out west, yeah, the West Coast, to make good money, because that's not true. But with that being said, don't let this video discourage you. I just want y'all to know the nitty gritty, the things that happen behind the closed doors of nursing. Once again, like I said, very good career. I love it. You get your pros and your cons, find you an area that you like, work it, and, you know, go home and feed your kids and your family at the end of the day. You take care of you take care of your patients, and that's all that matters. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. I truly appreciate all the love, like, support, comments, everything. I love reading y'all's comments. Good luck to anybody that's going through nursing school, that's getting ready to take their NCLEX, and that's probably getting ready to take their first nursing job. And if you are thinking about switching jobs, just go ahead and do it. Don't let anything discourage you. So yes, I will see y'all in about a week with another video. Love you guys. Bye.